There are minds that do not simply look at the world, they pierce through it. They sense what others conceal, decode the smallest facial flicker, and read silence as if it were a confession. Carl Jung called them the intuitives. But behind that gift, he found a danger so profound that he compared it to standing too close to the sun. You see everything, and the light can burn you alive. Jung's warning was never meant for the ordinary observer. It was for those rare souls whose perception operates beyond the visible, who absorb emotions, hidden motives, and psychic tensions that others unconsciously leak into the atmosphere. They are the mirrors of the collective psyche, and society, Jung realized, does not tolerate a mirror that shows too much truth. In 1913, during the collapse of his alliance with Freud, Jung met a woman whose presence unsettled him. She entered his consulting room quietly, but within minutes she described, with unnerving accuracy, the secret conflicts between Jung and his colleagues, things she could not have known. She spoke of people as if she lived inside their dreams. Jung at first suspected delusion. Yet, each impression she voiced proved right. He wrote privately that this patient seemed to breathe the psychic air of others. Her perception was not imagination, it was an intrusion into the unconscious field that connects all human beings. But instead of making her powerful, it made her miserable. Friends avoided her. Employers dismissed her without reason. Wherever she went, people felt exposed, stripped of their polite disguises. She had not lost her mind, she had simply seen too much of everyone else's. Jung realized he was witnessing what happens when the unconscious becomes too conscious, when perception evolves faster than the personality that must carry it. This was not madness. It was overexposure to the truth. Jung began calling this phenomenon differentiated perception, a level of intuitive sensitivity so refined that it picks up what ordinary minds filter out. Such people notice contradictions in tone, subtle resentment in praise, fear beneath arrogance. They see the fracture lines in human behavior before collapse occurs. But this heightened seeing comes with a paradox. The more you perceive, the less you belong. Clarity becomes isolation. Truth becomes exile. Jung warned that these individuals often suffer not from mental illness, but from psychological loneliness, the unbearable distance between their awareness and the world's denial. He wrote that to see beyond the collective illusion is to stand outside it. And few can survive outside for long. Jung noticed something terrifying. When his perceptive patients described others' hidden motives, those same people would react with hostility, as if being seen were an attack. This was not coincidence, it was the law of the shadow. When someone unconsciously hides a flaw, they instinctively attack the one who perceives it. Jung called this shadow projection the mind's defense against unbearable self-knowledge. So the clairvoyant becomes the scapegoat. They are accused of negativity for naming pain, arrogance for naming truth, cruelty for naming repression. The more accurate their perception, the more society punishes them. Jung observed that people who see too much become lightning rods for the darkness others refuse to confront. They are mirrors shattered by the gaze of those who cannot face themselves. The four faces of the intuitive. Jung's research revealed that not all perceptive individuals process what they see in the same way. He identified four archetypal patterns within this rare psychological type of one. The empathic intuitive, they feel what others feel before words appear. Their bodies absorb the emotional temperature of rooms. Without boundaries, they drown in borrowed pain. 2. The analytical intuitive, they think in psychological patterns. They can predict outcomes before they unfold, tracing invisible cause and effect like a mathematician of the unconscious. 3. The somatic intuitive, they sense through the body. They detect illness, exhaustion, or deceit as physical sensations. Their own health fluctuates with the moods around them. 4. The visionary intuitive, they see everything but struggle to order it. Dreams, symbols, and coincidences flood them until meaning dissolves into chaos. Each faces the same challenge, integration, the art of turning perception into wisdom rather than overwhelm. Why Jung called it dangerous? Jung believed the danger of extraordinary perception lies in its unfiltered contact with the collective unconscious. Most people survive by not seeing too clearly. Society depends on mutual blindness, polite illusions that keep relationships stable. But when someone sees through the mask, they disturb that balance. Jung wrote that the one who perceives too much threatens the tribe's illusion of harmony. Families, workplaces, even nations function through shared denial. Expose it, and you become the threat. Thus, the gift becomes a curse. The perceptive individual disrupts unspoken agreements, to ignore the lie, to pretend normalcy, to protect the dream. They are rejected not for being wrong, but for being too right. The three great dangers. Jung outlined 3 psychological dangers that stalk those who see too deeply. 1. Collective disruption. The clear-sighted person destabilizes the unconscious contracts that hold groups together. Their mere authenticity is subversive, a challenge to every pretense that sustains belonging. 2. Existential isolation. He called it the problem of superior function. When one function, intuition, becomes too developed, it alienates the individual from collective life. You no longer speak the same psychological language as those around you. 3. Identity erosion. Worst of all is participation mystique, when the boundaries between self and others dissolve. The perceptive mind absorbs so much external emotion that it forgets its own center. You stop knowing where you end and they begin. To Jung, this wasn't just suffering. It was the risk of psychological annihilation. Jung did not leave these visionaries without hope. Through decades of study, he outlined the individuation process, a method for surviving extraordinary awareness without losing the self. Phase 1. Discrimination. Learn to separate what is yours from what belongs to others. He advised periods of solitude so the borrowed emotions can settle and the authentic self can re-emerge. Phase 2. Shadow work. The more you see darkness in others, the more you must examine your own. Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others leads to understanding ourselves. Only by owning your own capacity for cruelty, envy, and deceit can you perceive others without judgment. Phase 3. Conscious participation. Finally, Jung urged his students to re-enter society consciously, not to withdraw as prophets, but to engage as bridges between awareness and ignorance. He called these individuals culture carriers, people who help translate unconscious truth into collective growth. Jung often illustrated this danger through history. He admired Nietzsche's brilliance yet saw how the philosophers and integrated perception consumed him. Nietzsche saw through every illusion but could not live with what he saw. His consciousness expanded faster than his psyche could endure, and it fractured him. In contrast, Jung revered Meister Eckhart, the medieval mystic who achieved balance. Eckhart perceived transcendent realities yet grounded them in compassion. He used insight to heal, not to destroy. To Jung, Eckhart represented what happens when vision becomes service instead of superiority. Between 1913 and 1919, Jung himself entered the abyss he described. He called it the confrontation with the unconscious. Dreams bled into waking life. Voices spoke from symbols. He feared madness but discovered a method. By recording his visions in the Red Book, he learned that the psyche speaks in images, not logic. By befriending the chaos instead of fleeing it, he found integration. He emerged not as a prophet, but as a bridge, proof that survival is possible for those who see too much. When integrated, superior perception turns from torment to purpose. The same awareness that isolates can also heal. You begin to see without judging, to feel without drowning, to know without needing control. This is what Jung called the transcendent function, the bridge between the conscious and the unconscious. At this stage, you no longer demand that others see as you do. You carry your vision quietly, using it to guide, not to dominate. You become what Jung described as the vessel through which the unconscious strives toward consciousness. Your perception becomes cultural medicine. The stages of transformation. Those who integrate follow for turning points, recognition without panic, admit your gift. Stop calling it madness. Integration without isolation, keep your eyes open yet your heart connected. Service without sacrifice, use perception to illuminate, not to rescue. Legacy without ego, share insight, then release it. Evolution does the rest. At this level, seeing becomes serenity. You witness reality without needing to fix it. You become awareness itself, calm, clear, and compassionate. Years after that first session, Jung's intuitive patient returned transformed. She had learned to ground herself, to discern what belonged to her and what did not. She used her perception to guide others gently through their pain. Jung wrote that she learned not to see less, but to see more wisely. Her vision remained sharp, but her heart became spacious. The same light that once blinded her now illuminated others. Jung's hidden warning endures: some people are born with consciousness that outruns the age they live in. They see beneath the masks of their time and mistake their isolation for illness. But what they suffer from is premature awareness. If this is you, if you see the lies others defend, feel emotions that aren't yours, sense truths before they're spoken, you are not broken. You are simply in the difficult first act of individuation. The world may not be ready for what you perceive, but it needs you all the same. Jung's words echo like prophecy: what is not made conscious returns as fate. Your perception is not your curse. Your unconscious relationship to it is. Integrate it, and you become what Jung called a pioneer of consciousness, preparing humanity for the truths it will one day have to face. Because the danger of seeing everything is not that you see too much. It's that you might never learn to see wisely.